Hey guys, welcome back to the Captain's Corner Pod. I am Ray Russell, and this week a very special edition of the Captain's Corner. 2 in a row, guys. Last week we reviewed the Portland Wrestling Expo. This week we're going to preview the Glory Days GrappleCon 2, headed to LUTZ, Florida. And in order to talk all about that, Mr. Nick Masci coming on. Let's ask that ever-important question. What's happening, Captain?
Well, Ray, like you said, and thanks for having us back-to-back weeks. We hope that everyone in the audience is enjoying these episodes as much as we're enjoying recording them. What's going to make this particular episode special is not only the fact that, you know, it is back-to-back weeks, and not only the fact that we're going to be reviewing Glory Days GrappleCon 2, which is just days away at the Residence Inn Tampa, Suncoast, in beautiful LUTZ, Florida, but it's the fact that we get to welcome in my partner in crime, former guest. He was on the inaugural edition of the Captain's Corner podcast. Your friend and mine, Mr. Barry Rose. Barry, thank you so much for coming on, talk a little Glory Days GrappleCon 2.
No, Nick, first off, thank you for inviting me. And Ray, thank you for having me on as well. But I'll tell you what, Nick, we are from this recording, about 10 days out. And I think from what Ray told me, this is going to drop in just a couple of days, which means it'll be a little over a week until Glory Days GrappleCon 2, taking place at the Marriott Residence Inn, North Point. You know, I always screw this up. It's the Residence Inn
Tampa Suncoast at North Point.
I can never. It's the longest in history, but we love the hotel. Nick, I got to stop by the hotel today. I think breaking news right here, breaking kayfabe right here. I had a meeting about a mile away from the hotel, and I actually stopped at the hotel. I was able to see our contact there. She gave me a tour of both the rooms, and I'll tell you, first off, great news. They spent about $1 million renovating this hotel. I think it was a little bit over. All of the rooms have been renovated. The banquet rooms have been renovated. The hotel lobby, the entire building from top to bottom has been completely renovated. It looks beautiful. So we're so excited, first off, to be in LUTZ, which was the home for years of CWF Legends Fan Fest. And because people asked for it, people wanted us to go to LUTZ. They missed that intimacy of the fact that they're able to walk to Glory Days or World of Beer or any of the restaurants that are there. They wanted us back in LUTZ. We listened, and guess what? We are back in LUTZ. Also great news, I had a long conversation about the smoking section. And I know the smoking section for a lot of people in hotels is not something anyone ever thinks about. I can guarantee our crew, that's all they've been thinking about, because we have, Nick, I think you and I one night, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and we're just out there congregating in the smoking section, and it's just such a blast. But I spoke to our contact there, and she has put the chairs out, the ashtrays are out, smoking section is back, so I can guarantee the hotel is ready for us, Nick. The question is, are we ready for Glory Days GrappleCon 2 coming up March the 29th in the beautiful Tampa suburb of LUTZ, Florida?
It's so exciting. We lost the captain here. I'm sure he'll be back on in a moment, guys. But Barry, just so exciting. You know, last time around, you guys were in Orlando and you did it good there. But I've always heard about the intimacy of LUTZ and everything going on there in the LUTZ area when you did the Legends Fan Fest for the CWF. And now you guys are returning, but it's Glory Days GrappleCon 2.
He's back.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, the captain returns.
So I had lunch with a good mutual friend of ours today, Barry, Raymond Dusick. And Ray was telling me, as we're about to go over the lineup, that he actually thinks this lineup is significantly better than our initial foray, our launch of Glory Days GrappleCon. And you know what? It's hard pressed not to agree with him. We got a little bit of something for everyone at Glory Days GrappleCon 2 on March 29th at the Residence Inn. So, why don't you take it from the top, Barry?
Absolutely, too. And, you know, and to Ray's point, and I understand what he's saying, too, we had some really heavy hitters at Glory Days GrappleCon 1, some really big names. But one of the things that, the captain and myself both really enjoy is trying to working with guys that maybe aren't on the circuit, guys who aren't in every town doing every show. And we really have some great names with this one. But we'll start off. We've got Nikita Koloff. Nikita's great, too. Nikita's a guy who does maybe one or two shows per year. Doesn't really do a lot of the big shows. I know he's doing another show later this year somewhere else, but Nikita is kind of a rare guest. And when we had the opportunity to work with him, I told Nick, I would jump at this because to me, Nikita, you're going back 40 years. You're going back to the mid 80s, but the superpowers and arguably maybe the biggest heel in the NWA at the time. And then he turns into arguably the second biggest babyface directly behind Dusty. So, having Nikita there is just fantastic. Arn Anderson, considered the glue of the Four Horsemen, right? Everybody says, who was your favorite? Was it Ric Flair? Was it Tully? And most people say, no, it was Arn, because Arn was the guy. And, such a fan, so excited he's going to be there. Dutch Mantell, Dutch, who has had some health issues lately. I have been in touch with Dutch and his family, and Dutch will be there, Nick. There is no question about it. Rounding this out as well, Colonel Robert Parker, Robert Fuller, and his cousin, Bunkhouse Buck, Jimmy Golden. Two guys that started teaming, I want to say, 71, maybe 72, maybe even earlier than that. I don't know, because they were working some small towns in Tennessee, and they might have even teamed 70, maybe even 69. But I first saw them in the early 70s in Florida as Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden. They had national success in WCW as Colonel Robert Parker and Bunkhouse Buck, but super excited. And, Ray and I were talking off air before we started recording, and Ray said he was really excited to meet some of these people, and he can't make it, unfortunately. But I was like, who are you most excited about? And he goes, I got to tell you, Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden. And I said, Jimmy Golden's my guy. I've been wanting to meet Jimmy forever, so I'm super excited about that. Larry Hamilton. Larry Hamilton had a great career in the state of Florida, also worked in Continental, and just a tremendous talent. He's only done one other event that I'm aware of, and that was a CWF Legends Fan Fest about 5-6 years ago. So just a great guy to work with. Super excited to be with us. Also have Glacier. Glacier will be there. NWO Sting, Jeff Farmer will be there. David Penzer will be there. Bill DeMott is going to be there. April Hunter will be there. Ivelisse. Lexi Gomez. Nick, who else am I forgetting? We have Jungle Jim Steele will be there.
Well, first of all, you actually forgot one of the featured names on the super ticket, and that's someone who, the Chuck Norris professional wrestling, the one and only Meng. Haku will be there.
How could I forget Haku? Exactly.
You better never forget Haku.
If I do, yeah. And if I do, I won't be, you will not see me on March the 29th if I ever make that mistake again. So,
let's not forget the one and only, because we're going to break this news here on the Captain's Corner podcast. Coming back to Glory Days for a second trip, one of the most legendary figures in Japanese pro wrestling, the Butcher. Abdullah the Butcher is returning to Florida, and he's returning to Glory Days GrappleCon. What another big name, Barry Rose.
And it's super exciting, too. And what was really nice about it was we were able to work with Abdullah the Butcher at the first Glory Days GrappleCon last year in Orlando. And he and his team were just the nicest people. And when they saw that we were doing a show in LUTZ, they reached out immediately. They said that, and I don't know, I'm sure we hear this a lot, or vendors hear this, but they said this was their favorite show ever to work. They were treated with respect as we treat all of our guests that are there, including ticket holders. And that they wanted to come back and they wanted to be a part of it. So I know I'm excited to have Abdullah back. He was a lot of fun last time. He will have his fork and he will jab that fork in your forehead if you want. But we're really looking forward to seeing Abdullah. Nick, you've got a couple of great vendor guests that you're bringing into the show underneath the Captain's Corner banner. One I mentioned earlier was Jungle Jim Steele, WCW regular for several years, and also a guy that worked Japan and just really had a great career. And you're also bringing in, the Nightmare, Danny Davis, a guy to me that, I think one of the unheralded best workers probably of the 1980s. Just an amazing talent. How did you score Danny Davis down to Tampa, Nick?
Well, so, and thank you, because the fascinating thing about Glory Days is not only are there the guests that are on our super ticket, in this case, the WCW reunion, but it's all the fantastic vendor guests that we have. Just a way to complement the super drink and give everyone additional choices. And then, of course, I had to bring some rare guests. So this is actually Danny Davis's first signing outside of the Memphis area. And
wow.
I was put in contact with Danny through our mutual friend Wolfie D, who I've worked with in the past, one half of PG-13, and he put me in contact with one half of the Nightmares. Like you said, Barry, one of the most underrated tag teams of the entire 1980s. I would say a top 10 tag team. Ken Wayne and, of course, Danny Davis. So memorable as the Nightmares, both masked and unmasked. I've always wanted to work with Danny, and when the opportunity presented itself in LUTZ on March 29th, I jumped at that. And I thought I was set between NWO Sting, who was also Cobra, who was also one half of Thunder and Lightning. He was Super J in Japan. He had a very underrated career. And then Danny Davis, I was like, okay, the Captain's Corner additional guests are set. But no, ladies and gentlemen, they weren't set. Because making his first ever signing anywhere, he's never done a meet and greet, never done a convention before in this country, Jungle Jim Steele. Now, Jim Steele was a power plant graduate, much like NWO Sting. They're both very excited to see each other again for the first time in years at Glory Days, and was in Japan for almost a decade. He had dozens of tours with, at first, Giant Bob was All Japan Pro Wrestling, and then he moved to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Also had a stint in WWC in Puerto Rico. So very well-traveled Jungle Jim Steele. When Jim got back to me, I had to add a third guest. And Barry, let's not forget the return of favorites from the CWF Legends Fan Fest. The Barrio Brothers, the Cuban Assassin, and Ricky Santana will be in LUTZ on March 29th.
Well, there you go. And that is a stacked lineup right there. And I think you can see, too, in bringing guys like Danny Davis and maybe Ricky Santana and, Larry Hamilton and NWO Sting, Jungle Jim Steele, these are not guys that are on the circuit hitting every show. And, these are unique, one-in-a-lifetime, like, meetups and greet-ups. So we encourage you all right now. You can go to tixtree.com, look for Glory Days GRAPPLECON 2. You can purchase your tickets. Last I checked this morning, there were only 3 VIP tickets left, Nick. So we have really gone down the wire with that. So if you want to be there, if you want to be able to see all the events, and we're going to talk about the events in just a moment, you do want to get to tixtree.com. Again, look up Glory Days GRAPPLECON 2. Buy your ticket, buy your VIP ticket. Come support us. We guarantee you get more bang for your buck when you come to see one of our shows than anyone else in the country. And everybody that comes always says that. But Nick, let's talk about the special Q&A events that we're doing as well. We're starting off the morning, and this is kind of exciting because you and I are both really good friends with Ray Lloyd, better known as Glacier, WCW's Glacier, arguably the nicest guy ever in professional wrestling as well. But he was part of a movie, I'll say about a year ago, called The Unbreakable Bunch. Also stars Haku. It starred a couple of guys. I forget who else was in it, but we are actually going to...
Stan Hansen.
That's right, Stan Hansen
goes in it, yeah. And like you said, Haku, Ernest the Cat Miller, and Ray actually produced the movie as well. I know he had a big role in it, and that's our first event, which Barry will talk about a little more, the Unbreakable Bunch screening. It's going to be a private screening where you and a few dozen of your friends, because this is just for, I believe, VIP and gold ticket holders, Barry?
That's correct. This is the only event that we made public because of demand. We should clarify, in order to do the Q&As, it's usually with the purchase of a VIP ticket, but there was such a demand to see the movie, and then we'll talk about the Q&A that's going to take place afterwards, that we actually offer this with the gold ticket as well. So if you do want to see The Unbreakable Bunch, which is the movie, as Nick just said, you've got Glacier, you've got Haku, Ernest the Cat Miller, Stan Hansen, Larry Zbyszko, and really, I think there's a few other names in there. This will start at 10 a.m. on Saturday the 29th, but we're not done with that, Nick. When that movie is over, and it's about a 90-minute runtime, we are going to go directly into a Q&A with Glacier and Haku. Now, let's put a caveat on that one. Do you know how many Q&As Haku has done in his career, Nick?
How many?
Zero. This will be the first time Haku has ever done a Q&A in anything in relation to professional wrestling at all. So, we only have a half an hour. I think we're going to keep the questions strictly to the movie, so that way people aren't asking Haku, hey, did you really rip this guy's eye out? Did you, all the usual Haku stories that tend to make their way online. We want to keep this Q&A strictly for the movie, but you'll be able to meet Haku immediately following at his table. You can get photos, you can get autographs. He is part of our super ticket, so if you do get the VIP ticket, you can see all the events, and you get to meet Haku, get photos and autographs with him as well, and you can probably ask him questions too. He's a super nice guy. So, Nick, that's really exciting too, the fact that we have the stars of the film not only watching the movie with fans, but then answering questions about the making of the movie too.
Well, what's going to make this special? And I'm actually going to have some family with me. My kids are going to be at Glory Days, my wife, and my daughter's actually an aspiring actress. And when she heard that we were doing a movie screening and had to have the opportunity to talk to people that have made a movie, produced a movie, that was the event she was most excited about. So, I mean, if anyone that's had questions about the behind the scenes in producing, in filming, in recording the movie, this is your chance. From top to bottom, Ray Lloyd Glacier was involved in every aspect of this movie. I know he's got stories about wrestling, but he's also got stories now about being involved in producing a movie that was completed with a lot of names that are familiar to wrestling fans. So I think it's going to be it's a unique opportunity because, of course, these guys are known for their wrestling career. But the fact that they've been able to, star in Ray's case and co-star in Haku's case to a very unique movie, that's just going to bring an extra little 1-2 to our morning event at Glory Days GrappleCon.
It really is too, and I want to say our usual morning time was probably closer to 11 because we will be showing the film and then doing the Q&A. We are going to back that up and start about an hour earlier at 10 o'clock. But again, the only way that you'll be able to see this private screening of The Unbreakable Bunch, followed immediately by that Q&A with the stars of the film, Glacier and Haku, is if you either have a VIP or gold ticket. I encourage you, do not wait, because if we sell out of VIP tickets, we can't create any more. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. So maybe jump in now. But we can also talk about what that VIP ticket will also get you, because at 12 noon, the doors to the convention open. And when the doors open, we mean that in the sense that, for your autographs, your photos, stuff that you want to get signed, but we always allow our VIP ticket holders a half an hour early entrance, which they absolutely love, Nick, because they get to get in there early. They get to get all their photos, all their stuff signed. And then when the rush comes in, which is about a half an hour later at 12:30, when the doors open to the general public, the lines will form. So again, we encourage you. You get so much with this VIP ticket between photos, autographs, all the Q&A, early admission, etc. You don't want to wait for this at all. So this is going to be great, but we've got something coming up too at 3:30 that is really fun and really unique, Nick. And I'm going to let you talk about it. It is the WCW Squares Q&A panel, hosted by former ring announcer for WCW and my ex-partner, David Penzer. Why don't you tell the people all about that, Nick?
Well, sure. This WCW Squares, WCW was one of the most influential companies of all time. And of course, at one point was actually the leading company in the world, right around 1997, 1998. And all the people that are going to be a part of this WCW Squares experience, it's going to be an interactive Q&A. You have the talent of David Penzer. He's going to be the MC. He's going to be our Kermit the Frog for Saturday afternoon's festivities. And featuring the stars of WCW, the stars that you watch in the Starrcade, the stars you watch in the Great American Bash, the stars you watch on the Clash of Champions. Arn Anderson's going to be a part of it. Glacier is going to be a part of it. Dirty Dutch Mantel's going to be a part of it. The stud stable of Colonel Parker and Bunkhouse Buck will be a part of it. NWO Sting will be a part of it. The very controversial, very talented, and very WCW resume-filled Bill DeMott will be a part of it. And you'll be able to ask questions to all of these guys. David Penzer, of course, will be leading the event, but there will be a session where you'll be able to ask questions as well. And one of the things that the camaraderie of WCW was drawing a lot of these guys to the event. When I was talking to Bill DeMott and he found out the guys that were on board this Glory Days GrappleCon 2, that it was a WCW reunion, he jumped on it. That's what really got him excited. So this reunion is going to take place in front of everyone, and it's going to be an interactive reunion because the WCW squares will discuss all things WCW from top to bottom. And let me tell you something. If there's any dirt that we're going to be uncovering, leave it up to Dave Penzer to get to the bottom of it. So I'm looking forward to that on Saturday afternoon starting at 3:30.
I would absolutely agree with that too. And again, the WCW Squares Q&A panel with all the names: Arn Anderson, Nikita Koloff, Glacier, Dutch Mantell, Colonel Robert Parker, Bunkhouse Buck, Larry Hamilton, Hugh Morris, NWO Sting. I mean, you don't just have a year there. You've got really the entire tenure of WCW in one way or another is kind of spread out. This is only available if you have that VIP ticket holder. If you've got the VIP ticket. So again, I encourage you, Tixtree.com. Pardon me. I'm getting choked up as we're starting to get a little closer to the show. But you want to get your ticket. You don't want to be shut out of this. And with that, as if we haven't told you enough about what will be taking place, we have another event. So or I should say the first, I won't even say the last, the first Glory Days GrappleCon that we did on April the 20th of 2024 at the Rosen Center Hotel, beautiful Orlando, Florida. I had such a great time, Nick. I think that was one of my favorite weekends right there in years. I just really had such a blast. But we did an event, and it was a shot of Jack with Jack, which was the great Jack Victory doing shots of Jack Daniels with fans. And there is a photo, and we really got to get that photo, dust it off and break it back out, because that photo where everybody is raising their glasses doing a shot, there's 50, 60 people in there. I absolutely love that. So that was such a popular event. And we actually auctioned off the Jack Daniels bottle autographed by Jack Victory. That was such a popular event that we knew we had to do something similar. Nick came up with this great idea, Suds with the Studs, featuring Colonel Robert Parker and Bunkhouse Buck. You'll be drinking beer and listening to road stories with Jimmy Golden and Robert Fuller for a solid hour. Where else? What other fan fest can you do this? I don't believe that you can anywhere else. Again, only available with the VIP ticket. So what are you waiting for? Get onto Tixtree.com. Get that ticket. Let's see you do the VIP, and then you can come and you can actually have a beer with Robert Fuller. And look, Robert Fuller's been around professional wrestling his entire life. He was born into the business, probably went to his first show as an infant, probably not even walking yet. The stories Robert Fuller has, you don't want to miss this. So I know I am going to be there breaking bread and drinking beer with those guys. And Nick, I know you will be as well.
Absolutely. I can't wait to have a drink with the Natty Daddy himself, Robert Fuller, and his cousin Jimmy Golden, a.k.a. Bunkhouse Buck. The Stud Stable reunites to crack a couple of cans, and everyone there will have some Suds with the Studs. What a nightcap that's going to be. The perfect cherry on top of the all-day Sunday known as Glory Days GrappleCon. And like Barry said, only 3 VIP tickets remain as of this morning, and we actually put more tickets on sale. More VIP tickets this time than last time, and we are down to our final 3. These will not be available on Saturday the 29th because they will be sold out. So I would highly recommend, like Barry said, everyone head on over to Tixtree. It's going to be a race. Who's going to get those last 3 tickets? Don't delay because they won't be there if you wait until this weekend.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Nick. Do not wait. These will go. We've been selling tickets at a great rate since they first went on sale several months ago. And I know that this past week, several VIP tickets, people waiting to the last minute were able to get them. But 3, ladies and gentlemen, 3. I can guarantee they will not be there when we open up our doors on the 29th. Nick, we do have breaking news, and I think I'm going to be breaking kayfabe for you as well. So I had a little meeting today, Nick. Should I share the details of this meeting?
I think you kind of have to now, to be honest. So
I think I do. I think I absolutely do. First off, let me say this was the way you want any meeting to go, because I had a chance to meet Aaron and Mike, who are a married husband and wife that own a local brewery called the Thirsty Buffalo. And they actually came up with the name. Mike is originally from Buffalo in upstate New York. And they came up with the name Thirsty Buffalo. They opened up their first location 4 years ago, and they've opened up a second location about the last year and a half. I couldn't have liked these two people anymore. She basically takes care of the front of the house. He's in charge of the brewery, but they work together well, friendly as could be, and really excited when I was telling them what we were going to be doing. So we had a meeting. I sampled some of their products. I then had to Uber home because I was in no condition to drive. And with that, they are going to be at Glory Days GrappleCon 2 on March the 29th, giving out, ladies and gentlemen, free samples of their beer. They are also trying to get growlers into the building. There are certain laws in the state of Florida, but they're hopeful that in having essentially 9 and 10 days to do it, they may be able to do this. So at the very least, if anyone is interested in sampling craft beers, this will be part of Glory Days GrappleCon 2. Thanks to the Thirsty Buffalo, Aaron and Mike, you will be able to sample several of their homemade brews, Nick. How exciting is that?
Very exciting. I can't wait to sample some of the brews, to spend time with everyone at Glory Days GrappleCon 2. Now only days away. Do not delay. Those VIP tickets, like we said, will not be there much longer. Get on them while you can. You don't want to see all the photos on Saturday night or Sunday the 30th and realize that you missed out on Glory Days GrappleCon 2. With all the events, with all the guests going on, with all the fantastic events that we have, this is a great chance to create some more memories with everyone at the Glory Days family, the other ship, so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely too. And if you have any questions regarding tickets or what's coming up or the schedule, anything like that, you can visit the Glory Days GrappleCon Facebook group. You can also visit the CWF Legends Facebook group. All the information is in there. But if there's a question that you don't see, and there's something that you're looking for, you can always reach out to me personally. My name is Barry Rose, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions, provided I can answer those questions. I'd be more than happy to answer any of those for anyone. So I'm real excited, Nick. We are just literally a week away at this point. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep for the next week, Nick.
Well, I know I won't be able to sleep either, Barry. I can't believe we're almost at the eve of Glory Days. And, everyone had such a great time the first time around. We knew we had to do it again. We knew we had to incorporate the Residence Inn and LUTZ, combining everything into one big stew, one big pot. Could make Glory Days 2 even more missed than the initial episode was. So, like Barry said, head on over to Brick Kayfabe, head on over to CWF Legends Fan Fest, head on over to Captain's Corner. We've got details posted everywhere. We're going to have vendor pricing on talent up very soon. But don't miss out on Glory Days GrappleCon 2.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it from the captain himself, Nick Masci. Nick will be in full gear with the captain's hat on and everything in LUTZ on March the 29th. Nick's family will be there as well. I got to tell you, too, I live about 20 minutes away from the hotel, and I actually did get a chance to stop by today. The weather the last week, Nick, has been flawless. It has been mid to high 70s, pure sun, no rain, no humidity, just absolutely gorgeous. I would tell you that I'm sunburned, but heck, you already know that, right?
Well, I think everyone, as if there wasn't another reason to check Glory Days, the fact that it is spring break, the weather is beautiful, it won't be too warm. Experience the beauty of Tampa. Experience the beauty of LUTZ. We'll be spending some time in Orlando. A lot of people are making plans to extend the weekend to a full week on either the front end or the back end. Either way, make sure you're in the Tampa area. At the Residence Inn, Tampa Suncoast Parkway, and North Point Village. I believe that's it. In LUTZ, starting at 10 a.m. Don't miss out on GDGC 2.
All right, very good, gentlemen. I think you guys have done a wonderful job of building everything up and making me really regret my situation at this point in time. I'm going to have to rethink this whole thing. I heard beer samples, and now I'm like, I don't know now, you know.
Oh, that's right. That was your main thing at the first one. You wanted to drink a lot. I remember that.
That's always my shtick when I get away from the kiddos.
Nice.
Cheers to that.
Absolutely. So, well, that's it, guys. You heard all about it. The Glory Days GrappleCon 2 coming in just a week's time. Again, you can check it out pretty much everywhere on social media. Either it's the Captain's Corner or Barry Rose, the old CWF Legends. So over there on Facebook, the group. And you guys have the Glory Days GrappleCon group as well. So there's a lot of places you guys can go get your information. And if you still don't see what you need, like Barry said, contact him directly and they will get back to you. No doubt about it. And 3 VIP tickets left. Ooh, somebody better get to those real fast. I have to say that much because it doesn't sound like they're going to be there by the time the show comes up. But Barry, we want to thank you so much for joining Captain's Corner. It's been a long time since all three of us got together here on the program. So it's really good to hear from you, man.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, too. I love both you. You know, Nick is one of my closest friends, Ray. I love you to death. And this has been a lot of fun to be able to come on and just hang with you guys for the last 30 minutes. But, I won't be a stranger. You can have me back anytime you want.
Don't tempt me with a good time, Barry.
I always do, Nick.
All right, Barry Rose, thanks very much for that. Was kind of cool to have Barry back on here. He had that little segment there on the first show, Nick, and it's been a while. It was good to have Barry back in the saddle here like the old days. And man, you got a lot of things going on in the world of Captain's Corner. Last time we talked about the Portland Wrestling Expo. Now you've got Glory Days GrappleCon 2 right around the corner, but you've got some other things going on in between as well.
Well, with so much going on in the world of Captain's Corner, of course, Glory Days GrappleCon right around the corner. Make sure to head on over to Ticketstreet now. But we've been busy with non-Glory Days events. We just had a fantastic weekend with Boris Zukov and Mike George, full of virtual signings, public appearances in Long Island and Queens. And both of those guys don't come out a lot, Ray. So it was good to spend some time with Boris. Boris is a longtime friend of Captain's Corner. And it was our first time working with Mike George. What are your memories of Boris Zukov and or Mike George?
Well, Boris was in my wheelhouse in regards to being a kid growing up and watching WWF television. I know he got that gimmick over there in the AWA after he did the Jim Nelson deal, but I remember Boris most from his run with Nikolai and then later on as the enhancement worker. And even I, at 10 years old, enjoyed that little Nikolai USA storyline. So to see him work Boris, at least in a one-off on I think it was like the SummerSlam special, the Spectacular or whatever. I just remember watching him during that era, and then, he kind of disappeared into the sunset like most of the guys did from that era. But that's very cool that you were able to get a hold of him and snatch him back and do that. And Mike George, now that was completely out of my timeline and not in my territory area up here. So, but I did see a lot of Mike, when you start studying and learning things, his name certainly pops up definitely down in the tri-states and Mid-South region for certain, and there's a lot of footage of him from the early 80s Mid-South as well. So Mike, he was a pretty stocky dude, from what I understand. His best years were before I was able to watch TV, but yeah, I mean, that's another legend from years gone by, and that is not a name you see a whole lot out here signing autographs.
No, he doesn't do a lot of appearances. This was actually his first time out of the Kansas City era doing end signings in, I believe, 6 to 7 years. So he was excited about that. And we had actually a very good reaction to him. Not that I wasn't expecting, people that are fans of those days to want to meet Mike, but just the fact that as many people did meet Mike and, thank me for bringing him up. And I think it meant a lot to Mike because, like you said, his only real national exposure was towards the very, very end of his career in the dying days of the AWA. So, his best runs, like you said, early Kansas City from the early 70s to the late 70s. He had a couple of stints in Florida. Of course, at one point, he was probably a number 2 and number 3 babyface for Bill Watts in Louisiana as the Junkyard Dog's main man. Yeah, Mike George coming out, and he kind of personifies a Captain's Corner guest. Of course, when we expanded to do this full time, we have to bring out more guests. But Mike George is the kind of guy that I would have worked with 10 years ago because he's got such a unique story, and he's someone that doesn't make appearances a lot. And that's kind of what I wanted to brand Captain's Corner as, a place where you can meet rare guests like your Barry Orton, rest in peace, Black Bart, Al Perez, so on and so forth. Those were the first round of guests that I brought in. And Mike George fit that to a T. So great weekend with Boris and Mike. And hot off the press, we're just finishing up a weekend in Dothan, Alabama. Captain's first time in Dothan, Alabama with the NWA. And the NWA, run by Billy Corgan, has been mostly on streaming channels, whether it was YouTube. Now it's on X, and they've always had a very good show. Obviously, sometimes talent level is a little higher than other times, but they always put on a very entertaining 40 to 45-minute show, which is actually my favorite kind of wrestling show. Some of the longer shows, it takes more work to watch them. Your 4 and 5 hour shows, your specials, whereas, like the territory style wrestling, your 40 to 45-minute shows, it would be an hour if there were commercials. They're very easy to digest. They're very easy to just pop in if you have an hour free. Now I sound old. I'm dating myself. I said pop in as if it's a VHS. And this weekend in Dothan, we had another longtime favorite of Captain's Corner, Barry Windham. And then also, first time we've worked with this person in a while, but the Captain's Corner manager, Mr. Olympia, Jerry Stubb. Now, awesome. I know we've talked about Barry before, but what about Mr. Olympia? What are some memories that come to mind for him, Ray?
Oh, my God. The first time I saw Mr. Olympia was in the tape trading days, and I fell in love with the dude immediately. Not only did the mask look cool, but, he had the awesome physique, and he could work. Jerry Stubbs could work, and that was really what caught my eye. I was like, I totally dig this guy. He wasn't just another masked guy that came out to the ring, and that was his gimmick, was he wore a mask. He could get out there and get it done. So I was a gigantic fan of Mr. Olympia. Unfortunately, not until the 90s when the tape trading started evolving, but once that kicked in, man, yeah. And then, of course, later on, the Watts family selling copies of, that entire run of the Mid-South stuff from the early 80s. Got to see all that Mr. Olympia goodness and just really great stuff. Very impressed. One of my favorites that, were from just before my time or out of my region.
Yeah, and Jerry had an unbelievable career in that southeastern, that panhandle part of the country, Alabama, Pensacola, the cities like Dothan and Birmingham. He actually was someone else that did really well in the Watts territory. He of course, another Junkyard Dog, number 2 co-pilot to the Dog. And he had a big heel turn. He wound up siding eventually with DiBiase and Skandar Akbar. Such a talented guy, and it's a shame that, he didn't travel as much to some of the other territories. Never got to Jim Crockett Promotions, after they went national. Never got to run with Vince. But very talented and a ton of fun to work with. Just a great guy. And, it was great. This is the first time we've had him in about 4 years. So when you're able to it's almost like a reunion. When you see an old friend like Jerry Stubbs, you're able to, bring him to Dothan, Alabama, his old stomping grounds, and do a virtual signing too while we're at it.
Sure. Well, it sounds like there's just a crazy amount of stuff going on, but let us not forget, guys, this coming weekend, it is Glory Days GrappleCon 2 in beautiful LUTZ, Florida. Not LUTZ, it is LUTZ. And, you guys are just days away. I encourage everybody to go out there. There are only 3 VIP tickets, I believe, still available. So grab one of those today, if not all 3 of them. Buy them up for your friends, guys, and head on down and have a great time. If there's anything else you want to say, Nick, before we sign off here?
No, I want to say, as always, Ray, thank you so much for what you do. You're a big part of the Captain's Corner brand with the Captain's Corner podcast that we've been doing for 6 or 7 months now. And, I hope you can make it. I know you can't make it to this upcoming Glory Days, but this will not be the last. And we may have details of another one right around the corner that will be breaking this weekend in LUTZ on Saturday. But always a great time to talk with you, Ray. Thank you so much for giving the Captain's Corner brand a presence, a voice. You're almost the voice, the online voice of the Captain's Corner brand. So I appreciate it.
We make it happen as often as we can, guys. And we'll be back soon. Well, maybe we'll be reviewing the GrappleCon 2 the next time Nick joins us. But until then, guys, time to sign off. I want to thank you again so much. We'll see you again next time.
Cheers to the working man.